So, hi, everybody. My name is Kia Ruiz, Kia, just like the car. And I said I went to Humboldt, but I do not even live in California. I live in Colorado currently. I am a Los Angeles native. And it's always weird saying that because I actually am a native too. So Nantorome for my people. I come from the Gababugle people from the Panama, Costa Rica region, and then Black and five tribes, that intermingling that has a pretty interesting history within the United States. So I'm here today representing the Local Seeds Coalition as their program director. And thank you for inviting us in. We are a coalition that is essentially right now in the phase of pulling people in because we are trying to figure out what is the relationship context as we look at larger seed corporations and how they have like a stronghold. Like so many of our seeds come from just a couple of handful of places. And that doesn't always give us the most geographically resilient seed for when we're growing. And that looks at all scale of markets that we're doing here, large scale or small scale. And there is an opportunity here when everybody's talking so much about regenerative agriculture right now. Some people are missing agroecology. People are looking at how to divest out of supermarkets and get into a different sort of supply chain if you can. A lot of people are looking at seeds, and seeds offer hope. But what we're missing a lot of times is where do our seeds come from? And it's so easy to say, okay, our seed comes from this hardiness zone. And that doesn't quite work out because how horizontally they're spread out in a place like the United States. If you are going to world walk with your relationship with those words, then it's going to become like life ways and life sheds. And that is the crux of what we've been getting to in this project so far. We're going to get into the timeline of it. I'm going to introduce David Gould, but a lot of it is words and our semantics and our relationship about where we are and how we're even connected to these things. So, like I said, my name is Kia. I'm the director. David Gould is here. I'm going to introduce him in a moment. He is our head of our standards working group. In this call, a lot of you know her, Julia. She's our development person, and this project really came about because of her and her hard work bringing us all together. And then not here today is Shonda Robinson Banks, and she does our outreach and cultural conversations. And so we are localseeds.org. David, are you ready to come off a screen and talk about the standards working group component of this?
Yeah, sure, Kia. Thanks. Um, so yeah, we're developing this standard as part of our program. It's basically a means, or a tool and a method by which we can basically increase the diversity and the quality of seeds, uh, and really support the livelihoods of the people and the communities that are stewarding them and have stewarded them, potentially for, countless generations. And not only that, but we're really trying to ensure, that they have a succession plan as well, right? We want to keep this going. And so, the goal here is the livelihoods of these communities and seed-based food systems and more and better quality seeds, diverse seeds that really are suited to the bioregions where they're being planted. And so I'm going to keep my part of this short, but one of the ways that we're doing this is by creating the standard, which is a way to basically have some guidelines and practices and expectations for people to be able to use a seal and tell a story with their seeds and get some recognition for it in a marketplace to help, better that livelihood or make it a more viable livelihood for them. And so the standard is going to be, we're trying to get as inclusive a set of perspectives on this as we can to make sure that we are really honoring the full diversity that we're targeting here. And so as we develop this standard, we're hoping to launch the drafting process for the standard sometime in the middle of July. And what we're looking for is a drafting committee, essentially, that will help translate the whole diversity of ideas into a coherent, understandable, executable set of practices that hopefully keeps everybody guided in the right way with some unifying principles, but allows a sort of bottom-up diversity to let people achieve that in the way they want. And one of the things that we're really looking for, and the reason that I'm here primarily right now, is to seek out people who are interested in being part of this core drafting committee. The committee will do the heavy lifting of putting the ideas down in a concise way on paper, or a digital paper, and then we will send that out to as broad a stakeholdership as we can to get more feedback on it and hopefully enrich it and clarify it. And we'll go through a couple of rounds of that with the idea that we will have a finished first version that is usable and can be a living document and built on over time as we all learn more, hopefully by the very beginning of 2027. And so what we're looking for here are a variety of people with not only sort of technical background across the value chain, anything from breeders to farmers, seed companies, people who have expertise in legal issues like intellectual property and data management. We're looking for seed librarians and a full range of technical expertise, as well as a full range of cultural diversity, whether that means indigenous, tribal, non-tribal, immigrants. And so we're trying to have a committee we say between 5 and 15 people, just so we can keep it at least a minimum amount of perspective and also manageable in size. And I see, Kia, did you put in the chat here a couple of links there?
I
Um,
sure did, David. Your PDF, the description, as well as the Google intake form.
Awesome. You beat me to it then. Great. So these have some basic descriptions of what the committee is supposed to do and what the expectations are. And then also there's a simple Google form to fill out if you're interested. And so I believe, Kia, your email address is on there. If people have questions, she can forward you to me as well. Happy to talk in person if you have any questions ahead of time. But we're hoping to really kind of get going in earnest, as I said, in mid-July, and we'll have a combination of some in-person, online meetings and some asynchronous work. And really, what we want are your ideas. And I'm pretty good at translating those, and then we'll all work together and hopefully put out something that is appealing and usable. So that's my pitch, and I really encourage people to express their interest. And yeah, thank you for considering.
Thank you, David. Um, so the other part of this project is this becomes some serious world walking. David knows standards. David has done standards for quite a while, and a lot of us know standards. But then how do you do the integration with the world walking of these cultural conversations? So Shanda Robinson Banks is also on our team, and she heads the Engagement, Outreach, and Cultural Conversations Working Group. And this is one of the interesting things because I mean, in an ideal world, we would talk to Indigenous people and we would honor that. And honestly, if we did that, we probably wouldn't be in the modern 2026 mess that we're in. But that is not the reality of things. So, in order to, especially with some of the older conversations we need to have with people, it is a much different way of relationship building versus saying, hey, can you put your information to a Google form for me? So, that is a different sort of technique that has to really be built with honorable relationships. It's a much longer timeline than some other things. And Shanda is really good at really focusing on data sovereignty and intellectual property. So why David, and this is the fun part with the drafting committee, you kind of are thinking what the framework is. And a lot of the times when you have standards, you can have a rubric, they can be rated, they can be binary. Like the sky's the limit with how you kind of create these things. But there's a potential we may get some very sensitive information. And if any of you have worked with seed keepers that are tied to place, this could even be Celtic. This doesn't have to be like, a US tribal thing. Some places it's like you spit on your seed, you give your water. Some places you blow on your seed, you breathe into it. Some places you have the seed around you when it's not the growing season because it's integrated, because it is kin. And there are all these different sort of traditions that I always say dominant culture, non-dominant culture when we kind of have these conversations. And it's dominant culture that really does have control of our seed market right now. So as we're trying to explore, how can we get out of that? Even if we go into a non-commodity place that have seeds, we need to have some sensitivity around how we have that information. So this project right now has been a lot of, in my opinion, David and Shanda having to have these conversations of integrating these two totally different worlds into a working mechanism that makes sense and honors essentially the sacred relationship of a seed. Standards, not always a sacred relationship to a seed. It can be designed as such. Cultural conversations can be very sacred, and it's usually not commodified. So we're doing a lot of world walking here for an integration that makes sense. Our working groups, we have standards. That's David. engagement, outreach, cultural conversations. That's Shanda. Education campaign. I'm doing that. I have a background with GMO labeling, and I also chair the board of directors for the Non-GMO Project. I am a science dork. I got to my candidacy, my PhD for an accident, but I know statistics really well. I know GIS really well. I know a lot of these technical competencies really well, but I am a native. And so, yeah, it's interesting seeing how many of my competencies are of service to this project right now as we're trying to figure out what makes the highest sense. And thankfully, we know that revisions exist for when we have to go there. We also have governance and development and just trying to make sure this stays on track. We are a special project of iPhone North America, and that's how we're working together. And so I'm going to go into, I guess, a little bit of some of the things we're looking here with this coalition building in this phase of our work. So this project is all about relationships. And I guess that is the big reason why I came to this conference today, to the summit. It's all about building relationships. And it's also so cool to talk to people in Arcata and back in Humboldt and back in California. So there's a call for the drafting committee. You heard that with David. David is pretty brilliant and well-known internationally. And if you don't already know him, I highly recommend that you entertain being involved, whether it's that interest form about, hey, I want to be on the committee, or just making some other contact because he's doing a lot of space in spaces with iPhone International right now. And then we're also trying to figure out, what does coalition building look like? So Seed Punks from the Farmhound Foundation, I believe they registered for today, and Zach is not here. So I'm going to let you know what Zach is doing. And they asked me, like, hey, does LSC, Local Seeds Coalition, want to get involved with what we're doing? And I'm like, that's not really the scope of what we're trying to do. But if we're saying we're going to coalition build and relationship build, yes, I'll give you guys a shout out at this kind of thing. So Farmhound Foundation and Seed Punks, Zach is working on working farms trying to bring in native California plants, because depending on the scalability of your production, people are trying to get those environmental factors really kind of nailed down so there's more resiliency there. And that's usually with some sort of interplay with what's happening in the ecosystem anyway. So Ojai Conservancy and Farmhand Foundation are working together. They are funded, and they are looking for people to possibly be growing some native seeds to go onto farmlands and sort of figure out the best intermixing so that you're not messing up the crop. That's your viable crop, but you are figuring out where it goes into the landscape. And so they are looking for seed producers to help out with that. I said I'd give them a shout out. There's not a call for it yet, but start getting involved with Farmhand Foundation and the Ojai Conservancy. And Elizabeth Whitlow is working with the Farmhand Foundation now too. So reach out to Zach, and if you know him, and if you don't, go ahead and reach out to me. I have 2 minutes and 24 seconds left to talk about what we're going to do today for storytelling with the seed. So seeds come in all kinds of great envelopes, right? Like, we're so used to having like just basic information on them. They're not very big. We have to put a lot of information and be very judicious with how we use it. Some of them have some great artwork, and they come in different containers. And sometimes you do see like little logos on them, sometimes not. We're hoping to see a Local Seeds Coalition logo on them in the near future for any of you doing seed catalogs. This one's interesting to me. This is from a girlfriend who's a 12th generation Hopi seed keeper. And it's just a plastic bag. Cracks me up. But she gave these to me 2 days ago because she needs to replenish this particular stock of the sensitive seed. We have these kind of things, when you kind of build your own sacred vessels. I went to a grain chain thing and I got some celebrity corn from like a hippie artist. So I have celebrity corn that I got in one of these. It just kind of cracks me up. My kids are seed keepers, and my youngest, you generally are going to have them in jars. They're not going to be as protective. But the inspiration for what we're doing today actually came from some kids at my children's school. So my kids go to a public Waldorf school. I know we have a lot of public Waldorf or just Waldorf type people in here. This is like the best seed packet. And there's a story behind it. The story behind this was in 2019, they tore down this beloved part of the school where the farm was, and there were sunflowers and lemon cucumbers and all these things. And at our harvest festival, I took all the lemon cucumbers and I made massive batches of like quick pickle and had kids like working with seed flower heads. And, we just did all these seeds at the harvest festival without knowing that COVID was coming the next year. COVID came, people went home. Some people stayed home more than a year. We already had seeds collected for people that wanted a part of the school in their home when everything got disrupted. It was actually really beautiful. So if you come to my session later on, 30 seconds left, there is a 2-page worksheet. Yay, get your arts and craft supplies out. And we're actually going to go through a conversation of there's a scenario, there's a meditation we're going to go through, and then a scenario with some information where you have your basic features that you have that you want communicated on the seed packet, but we go further. And this is kind of the work that we're doing right now in Local Seeds Coalition as we're developing that relationship to really get down to that local place in the hopes that we have more resilient seeds, increasing agrobiodiversity, and basically have better seed stock for everybody. And you will get to make your own seed packet. And there is a place for you to basically submit your seed packet to me with the Google form. That is 15 minutes, Jared, and I hope to see you later.